The room had been mine for 11 years, not in any dramatic way. No posters on the wall, no furniture I'd chosen with feeling, just a bed, a desk, a window that faced the neighbor's oak tree. I had learned the tree's moods. Bare in February, loud with birds in May. That window was the only thing in the house that ever felt like it belonged to me. My brother Marcus arrived on a Thursday with his wife, Danielle. And the announcement that she was 4 months along, the house filled with a different kind of air after that. Warmer toward them. Thinner for me. My father called me into the kitchen that same evening. He stood near the refrigerator with his arms crossed, not looking directly at me, the way he did when he'd already decided something and was only performing the conversation. "Marcus and Danielle will need the space," he said. "You should think about vacating your room." I asked when. He said soon. I nodded and went back to the oak tree window. Danielle found me the next morning while I was making coffee. She leaned against the doorframe with one hand resting on her stomach, already using it as punctuation. "It would honestly be better," she said, her voice carrying that particular lightness people use when they want to wound without accountability, "if you left the house altogether. Stress isn't good for the baby. And you know how these things are." I didn't answer her. I finished my coffee. I rinsed the cup. I set it on the drying rack the way I had done every morning for 11 years. Then I went upstairs and packed. I didn't take everything. I took what mattered: my laptop, my documents, 2 changes of clothes. I left the furniture. I left the curtains. I left the oak tree to whoever would bother to look at it. I found a room to rent from a woman named Carol, 3 miles away. She was 64, kept a cat named Gerald, and asked no questions. I paid her in cash for the first month and sat on the edge of a narrow mattress that smelled like cedar and thought, "This is fine. This is actually fine." I called no one for 4 days. On the 5th day, I called my attorney, a quiet man named Robert Chen, who had been handling my grandfather's estate for 2 years. We had one outstanding matter left to settle. I told him I was ready to finalize. He asked if I was sure. I said yes. I don't know exactly what Danielle found, or how. Marcus may have been going through paperwork. Maybe she was curious about the property taxes. Maybe she simply asked a neighbor who the registered owner of the house was, and received an answer she hadn't prepared for. My grandfather had left it to me. Not to my father, not split among the children. To me, specifically in writing, with my name spelled out in full, because he had watched quietly for many years, and made his own calculations. My father had been living in the house under an informal arrangement that everyone had treated as permanent because no one had reason to question it. I had never said a word. There was no reason to. I wasn't planning to displace anyone. I was 29. I had time. My father called on a Tuesday evening. His voice had lost the certainty it carried in the kitchen. He didn't accuse me of anything. He wasn't sure, I think, that he had the standing. He spoke carefully, like a man choosing his footing on ice, and said that Danielle was upset, and that there had been some confusion about the property, and that perhaps we should talk. I told him I was available Thursday. He said Danielle wanted to speak to me directly. I said Thursday would work for everyone. I didn't go to the house. I asked Robert to arrange a meeting at his office. Neutral ground, documented. Marcus came. My father came. Danielle came with her hand on her stomach, and her composure held together with visible effort. I sat across from them and said very little. Robert said most of what needed saying. There was no cruelty in the room, no speeches. The documents were what they were. The name on them was what it was. Danielle said, at one point, quietly, "It's not true. Tell me it's not true." She wasn't speaking to me. She was speaking to Marcus, and Marcus had no answer because he hadn't known either. He had assumed, the way people assume about the quiet ones, that our stillness is vacancy, that our patience is weakness, that our silence means we have nothing. I didn't ask them to leave. That was never the point. I told my father he could stay. I told Marcus and Danielle they were welcome to stay as well, while they found something more permanent. I said it without warmth, but without malice. I meant it. My father looked at me like he was seeing someone he hadn't met before. Maybe he was. I drove back to Carol's house. Fed Gerald a piece of cheese he wasn't supposed to have. And sat by a window that faced nothing in particular. The oak tree was 3 miles away. I didn't miss it as much as I thought I would.